a really critical point in history right now.
Carbon dominates the science around climate change.
We think of it, and you think of that big picture of a smokestack with stuff puffing out the top.
Carbon problem today is going to affect the whole world.
We need to create a language around this. This is a completely new area for many people.
Carbon's been consigned to, dirt, dust, something in the air, something that's dark, something that is really wrong.
That carbon maybe isn't such a bad thing after all, and if we use it properly, it really is going to be to our great advantage and to the environment's great advantage.
We know what to do. It is difficult, but actually it's out there. We can do this. We must, we can, we will.
We're at the Reimagining Carbon event at the Royal Society of Arts, put together by the Carbon Productivity Consortium.
I expect to be challenged because actually that's the only way industries like us are driven forward.
It'll take me a bit of time before I love carbon, I suspect, because the badness of the phenomenon is more pervasive than the goodness, but power to your elbow.
Having events like this are so important now to sort of bring everyone together, share what's happening.
Because this is about innovation and insurgency even among the incumbents. Pretty much everyone is in a map that is publicly available.
The idea of carbon productivity is tremendous. But if we can actually transition carbon from being a waste into an asset, then you get the market helping to drive things.
I'd like people to be more aware than they currently are of who's doing what across this landscape. Often business leaders have said to me, why can't NGOs be like the Vatican, all under one roof? How do we get the different, God help us, but how do we get NGOs and similar actors to cohere behind a change agenda that really is much more effective than currently?
I thought you were going to ask me a much easier question than that.
If we don't get challenged, we're not going to innovate. And it's the innovation that is actually contributing enormously to carbon productivity.
There are lots of people in the room who are emphasising the importance of language if we're going to really catalyse action.
The goals that we were naming with respect to climate change were rather weak-kneed. Mitigation, reduction, slowing, all these terms didn't make sense to me given the gravity of the situation and what we knew from the science.
We've had two big speeches already this morning. Firstly from Paul Hawken on his new book, Drawdown, which is a survey of 100 different solutions to climate change.
We have a choice as human beings, as institutions, to go one way or the other. And one way, to me, is interesting and it's a good life, and one of them actually is a dead end, it's the cul-de-sac.
And then from Erin Meason, who's the Chief Sustainability Officer at Interface, the carpet tile company, looking at some of the practicalities.
We also really want to highlight who are some of the pioneering companies who are actually doing this. Seeing those things manifest will actually help accelerate this conversation. Just changing your ambition and having a little bit of courage and belief can actually shift you from this idea of we can't do anything to starting to see solutions.
Every system that ignores feedback dies. This is feedback from a system. I feel if you don't name the goal, there's a fat chance you're going to attain it. You just won't reach it because you don't even know where you're going. Language, and all this is about reframing, really. And it's not just about measuring and modeling. What it is about rethinking our relationship to carbon.
I think one of the things that's really struck our team is just the profusion, the proliferation of initiatives in this space.
Recouple the plastic away from fossil fuel feedstocks and towards bio-based plastic or CO2 capture, which is possible now.
People are actually now seeing innovations getting into the market, especially carbon neutral products. So we are able to capture carbon dioxide from the black smoke coming out of the power plant. But then really what we are trying to do is we are trying to put the business solutions together.
Clearly there's also no silver bullets. We need electoral reform, institutional reform.
I think there's absolutely a role for government and policymakers, and I think it's most critical in the catalytic phase of this new industry. If you think of this as really starting a whole new industry, it's how can they support these higher risk but early stage technologies to get off the ground.
The great thing about land use is that it's a source of emissions. It's also one of the only sectors where we can draw down carbon. We cannot get to a 10x solution on conservation unless the world starts to care about the environment in a very different way, which requires a shift in mindset.
The buzz that's in the room has really filled me full of confidence that we are really walking down a road. At the moment we're walking, I want to start running that road so we can launch this methodology, launch these tools that we have where people can really understand where we're getting benefits out of carbon. And that, to me, is going to change just about everything we do.
I call for carbon pricing. I call for performance standards in buildings and vehicles. I call for energy efficiency agreements. I call for R&D support, institutions, and for reporting and labelling. We'll need all that and more of them.
We've really got to build critical mass. We can't simply do this in a fragmented, mutually, internally competitive way. We've got to join forces, and I see this as one stepping stone towards that outcome.
When you look climate change in the face every day, it is really hard to be optimistic. What we've seen today is that there are a vast array of solutions out there, and they just need to be scaled up through new types of collaboration and leadership. If as a consortium and a wider group, we can show the value of those solutions and give people an entry point to thinking about how those solutions map onto their own business models, then I think we can turn everyone into optimists.
We are trending on Twitter. Apparently that's a good thing.